Hey, what's up, cats and kittens? Shout out to all my cerebralites. It is she, the cerebral diva, and she is back with another episode of reality, and that's TEA because I give it to you scalding hot. So grab your cups, grab your saucers, gather around, and let's all partake in this libation of Real Housewives of Atlanta Tea, Season 12, Episode 8, The Proposal. This episode for me was a tear jerker, and I know I can't be the only one who needed a box of Kleenex for this episode. Proposals always make me cry, and I was just so happy to see Cynthia and Mike make it official. Shout out to Cynthia, shout out to Mike. You know, really happy for the both of them. Cynthia has been campaigning for this proposal, right? She's made absolutely no secret of the fact that she wanted to be married, even though after she and Peter went their separate ways, she was a little anti-marriage, but Mike definitely changed her disposition as it relates to marriage. And I thought it was really great to see grown, black, mature love manifest in the way that it did. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about the proposal. So before we talk about the proposal, I do want to talk about a couple of things. Let's see what happened here. So it looks like Portia and Dennis are working things out. That baby PJ, I think it was a few episodes back where Eva said that PJ looks like Dennis with bows or with the bow on. I have to agree 100%, but only so much cuter. That baby is so chubby, so cuddly, so adorable. I just can't stand it when she comes on the screen. She's just so adorable to me. So we see Portia and Dennis trying to work through their relationship woes. And I think I said this I mentioned this in the previous video. I'm actually here for the reconciliation between Portia and Dennis. I don't see Kenya and Mark working out. I think that is doomed. For sure. I mean, it's going to take an act of God for the two of them to work through their relationship issues. And I just don't see them working through those relationship issues and ever being happy. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So it looks like Dennis and Portia are working through. He bought her flowers. He's talking about upgrading her ring. While Portia wasn't there for it initially, she definitely seems to be coming around. And I think it's worth a second shot. And the reason I think it's worth a second shot is because Dennis is making an effort. Dennis is putting in the work. Men aren't perfect. Some men make mistakes. Now, I will say this. If he does it again, it's a wrap. There can be no coming, because after the second time, it's no longer a mistake. It's a pattern. It's a choice. And at that point, it's time to check out. So I'm okay with Portia giving him a second chance. Not that Portia has to listen to what I have to say, but I'm just saying from my perspective, if I were in Portia's shoes, I tend to not be the most forgiving. But in this particular instance, when I see that she has a child, I see that he's making an effort. You know, human beings make mistakes. You know, not everyone is perfect. So I think she should definitely go ahead and give Dennis a second chance. And it certainly seems like that's the direction that they're heading. So anyway, after that happens, the episode as a whole was kind of centered around this proposal for Cynthia Bailey. We see Mike building up to the proposal. He takes his daughters and Noelle to go ring shopping. And we sort of see the backstory of their relationship. And it all culminates in an event for Cynthia Bailey's wine cellar opening. Mike plans this really, really detailed proposal. I thought it was really, really sweet the way he did it. And while they're having the opening, Candy shows up, Portia shows up, pretty much everyone but Nene shows up. Well, at least not physically, Nene didn't show up. Nene didn't show up, however, she did send a card to Cynthia. And it was a really, really sweet and heartfelt card. And I tend to be a little bit of a cynic, I will admit that. But I thought it was a very kind gesture on Nene's part. And this is one of those situations, in my opinion, where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? Because had Nene not have sent anything, people would be saying, well, at least she could have sent something. You know, she could have at least sent their flower or done something to show appreciation or to show support to Cynthia. So Nene not only sent something, she sent a couple of food trays, in addition to a really, really heartfelt note, but basically saying that she was rooting for Cynthia from afar. And she never imagined the two of them being in the place that they are. And that too got me a little teary-eyed because we really don't very often get to see the softer side of Nene. And even though we didn't necessarily get to hear her saying it because we know Nene is not the most eloquent, but just hearing those words, whether she wrote them or had assistance with writing them, I still thought that it was very, very sweet of her to say those words to Cynthia on a very special day for Cynthia. So for her to eat that piece of humble pie and do that, I thought was great. But Portia was not here for it. Portia was like, girl, please, some cheese and some crackers. We're going to need you to step up. If you want to apologize, come better than that. And when Portia said that, the light bulb kind of came on for me too. Like, you know what, you're right, Portia. I feel you on that. But again, it's sort of the damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think that what Nene did was the right thing to do. So even though I kind of feel where Portia is coming from, I still appreciate the fact that Nene was gracious enough to send the train and the really sweet note to Cynthia. So anyway, they're at the wine cellar opening. Everyone's there. Cynthia's mom, her family, Mike's family, everyone's there. The who's who of Atlanta turned out for this opening. The room is hopping and buzzing. And Mike tells Candy, he whispers to Candy, he says, don't leave. And so Candy, sort of took that to mean, oh, he's going to propose. So Candy takes the initiative to text Kenya and say, girl, where are you? I think that Mike is going to propose to Cynthia. So here comes Kenya in her two-piece lavender pantsuit. So she shows up, and in true Kenya fashion, she ambushes the whole moment. And man, I have been a diehard Kenya Moore fan, but this season, I'm not gonna lie, she's been pissing me off. And this is one of those instances where she's certainly pissed me off. You are going to walk into this woman's event knowing the potential for her to be proposed to exists, and then you're gonna say, oh, I just have this feeling that Mike is gonna propose tonight. Really? Just a feeling, huh? Not a text message, but a feeling. So when she says that, you see Candy get really screw face, excuse me. And so Candy looks at Kenya like, did you really just say that? And so at some point during the conversation, and the conversation is between Candy, Cynthia, and Kenya. Candy asked Kenya to take a walk with her. So the two of them take a walk, and Candy's like, girl, why would you say that? Why would you do that? And she was like, I don't know. I didn't really think much of it. That's a lie. You took all of the air out of this woman's moment. The only thing I can say in Kenya's defense is that the proposal was not much of a surprise because Cynthia has been campaigning once again for it. We even saw clips where Mike went to Cynthia's family while Cynthia is at the table and asked for their permission to marry her. So she knew the proposal was coming. I honestly don't think that she thought that it was going to come at the opening of her wine cellar. So I thought it was really, distasteful of Kenya as a friend to come in and have that moment and to suck the air out of the room. And it pissed me off, honestly, when I was watching it, like I don't know if I'm really feeling Kenya, after she did that. So anyway, the moment happens. They call Cynthia to the front of the room to give a speech, and she basically thanks everyone for coming, and she's appreciative of all the support from all the people who have known and loved her. And then Mike takes the microphone and he basically starts to shower her with adulation and praise, and he says, I want to propose. And then there's this pregnant pause, and he's like, and you can hear the room buzzing, and he's like, a toast, right? Relax, people, it's just a toast. So it was sort of like I thought that was a great way to sort of diffuse and reset the moment that Kenya had just ambushed, because it was almost like, oh, he is going to propose, and then he withdrew it, so then Cynthia was relaxed in that moment. So that was the only thing that that I feel like was a saving grace in this moment. So he sort of stutter steps this proposal and says, I want to propose a toast. And then he starts congratulating Cynthia. And then out of nowhere, one of his daughter comes with the bottle. And the bottle has a question mark on it. And that's when the proposal begins. And everyone in the room, the oohs, the ahs, I start crying because I'm excited for Cynthia. I'm so anxious for her to have this moment. And he gets down on one knee. He proposes, she accepts, and the crowd goes wild. I am so rooting for them. I don't even think that they need anyone to root for them. When I look at the relationship, it really seems like mature love. It seems like the two of them have gone through so much with previous relationships. They're in a place in their lives where they're grown, they're adults, and they know how to communicate in a way that's going to allow them to have a sustaining relationship. So that was just a really, really nice moment to see. So after the proposal, Kenya comes over and she says to Cynthia and Candy that Mark is in town. And since Mark is in town and Mike is in town, she wants to have a triple date with Candy and Todd, Mike and Cynthia, and herself and Mark. So she sets up this date, right? And they all go to some steakhouse. I thought Candy looked adorable. I thought Kenya looked really, really pretty in her white dress. En route to this triple date, we see Kenya and Mark in her I believe she has a Tesla, and he's basically being passive aggressive. I was gonna say berating her, but I don't necessarily think it qualifies as berating. But he was definitely being passive aggressive, and I just sit there and watch the two of them in a truck, and I just shake my head like. On one hand, I feel sorry for Kenya, and then on the other hand, I feel like, you know what, this is a little bit of karma for the things the energy that you put in the universe sometimes, i.e. ruining, or potentially ruining Cynthia's proposal. So he's just, everything she says, he has a comeback. There's nothing that she can say that he's going to be in agreement with, or nothing that she can say that he's going to align with. Everything she says, he's going to find a way to basically does what she does, take the air out of it, suck the joy out of whatever moment that she has. So after he berates her in the car for, half hour, so they finally make it to the restaurant. They show up and they have the women seated on one side and the men seated on one side, and they did this whole wife swap thing, so you weren't seated directly across from your partner. You were seated across from someone other than your significant other. So they start this conversation, and they start asking Kenya just about relationships, and you really see in this instance, like, something else I forgot to talk about really quick. Flashback: Candy and Todd. Speaking of relationships, Candy's said she's concerned because Todd's starting all of these businesses. He's trying to open the Old Lady, some sort of Mexican and margarita bar, and he's doing this whole trucking business, and he's trying to do OLG breakfast. He's doing a lot. He's doing the most. And Candy's simply asking Todd to, hey, bro, take a step back. You're doing too much. I appreciate, your prowess and you trying to, sort of change the trajectory of our finances by being as aggressive as you are. So I'm here for that, but boo, you're moving too fast. I've been doing this way longer than you've been doing it. And the one thing, I don't know how the two of them interact off camera, but I can tell that Candy says some things that really hurt Todd's feelings. At one point, I'm trying to think of exactly what she says. At one point, she basically says, look, I've had money. I've been doing this way longer than you do, but you're trying to tell me what to do, was essentially the gist of what she said. And, he took it in and he sucked it up. And I think that Candy can be a little Mark-esque sometimes in the way that she deals with Todd. I definitely understand Candy's perspective that Todd is doing too much. You got to finish one project. You can't spread yourself too thin. You have all of these projects going on simultaneously, and you're not really project managing any single project at once because you're trying to juggle too many things at one time. So I can feel what Candy is saying. But I guess my question is, instead of complaining, Candy, why aren't you jumping in and taking on some of these tasks if you know that he's not completing them? And I know Candy has other ventures in terms of, she's on, is it Chicago? And she has her toy line and a bunch of other things that probably demand her attention. But if you have time to complain, you have time to work, as far as I'm concerned. So jump in, hire some help, do whatever it takes to get these things done, and then if you take some initiative, don't just complain, help is basically what I'm saying. If you see a man that's trying to make these efforts, don't sit back on your hands and wait for him to fail and just complain. Take some initiative, try to support him, and then if it fails, at least the next time it happens, you can say, look, we did it your way this time, next time we have to do it my way. We tried things your way and it didn't work. We lost money. We spread ourselves too thin. We can't do that again. Then you have a legitimate argument. So I just think that Candy was a little bit emasculating towards Todd. I think that she could watch her tone a little bit, if I'm being completely honest. But I also think that Todd needs to be a little considerate and also appreciate the fact that he has a woman who is a mogul, who does have business acumen, who does have a lot of business experience, a lot of business savvy, and he needs to lean on that and humble himself to a degree to appreciate some of the wisdom and tutelage that she is trying to impart on him for free. All right, so back to this whole lunch date. So the 6 of them are there, and they're asking, I think the conversation was essentially Kenya saying that she had already began planning Cynthia's wedding, and and they were concerned about the budget, and Kenya was talking about how she knows how to budget, and she deferred to Mark to say, tell him about our wedding, and then they started talking about the proposal and how unromantic the proposal was, how Mark just basically woke up out of bed, handed Kenya a ring and said, okay, look who's official now, and that was the proposal. I guess that conversation stemmed from Kenya being present at Cynthia's proposal and sort of wanting to have a moment like that for her own. Mind you, after she had just hijacked Cynthia's moment, now you want to create a moment like that for yourself. The nerve. The nerve. So they're sitting at the table and Kenya's talking about planning this whole wedding for Mark and Cynthia. And she's deferring to Mark, and Mark was basically like, it may not have been a very romantic proposal, but tell them how romantic I was at the wedding. And Kenya was like, okay, well, you were kind of romantic. It was like the happiest day. Okay, well, maybe the second happiest day of my life, compared to winning Miss USA. And so you could hear a pin drop in that moment, because that was not the appropriate thing to say. The first thing that you should have said, the happiest moment was giving birth to Brooklyn. And then thereafter should have been the wedding. And then thirdly and lastly should have been winning Miss USA. But Kenya let it be known, no, the happiest moment of my life was me being crowned Miss USA. All right, if that's your hierarchy in terms of happy days, who am I to judge? So when I watched this relationship between Kenya and Mark, like, it is literally like watching a train wreck. If ever two people have been mismatched, it is the two of them. I'm trying to figure out what was the attraction. They both just seem so incongruent in terms of their personalities. Like, how did the two of you wind up together? Because I'm lost. I'm mystified. I can't see what the attraction was. And I know Kenya has been on this whole thing recently where she's trying to still wear her wedding ring and really still trying to champion for this relationship, but it's doomed. They even had a conversation about the prenuptial agreement, and Mark is basically saying that if she would have even approached him with the prenup, the wedding would have been DOA. Either you're with me or you're not with me. Like, he just has this, people like to call it alpha, but it's not even alpha. He's just a-hole energy. He's an a-hole. I'm sorry, I said it. He's just an a-hole supreme. When I watch him, I'm just like so annoyed by him. I am so annoyed by him because And even at one point during the conversation, he starts sort of advocating for Nene and talking about how Nene's been nothing but nice to him. Are you serious? And even in this moment, I saw Mike and I saw Todd both stand up and say, look, if you have a problem with my woman, you have a problem with me. And I was just like, I just had to give applause to both Mike and Todd, because that's exactly how a relationship works. You two are a unit. How dare you tell me, your woman, your wife, that you are okay with another woman who has disrespected me to the utmost? At that point, I was done. Like, I mean, if I was Kenya, that's it. Like, okay, if Nene's so good to you, go be with Nene. I'm good. Let's figure out these visitation arrangements. You said I could have half. Give me my half. Give me my visitation, or you take your visitation, and let's just go about our separate ways, because clearly we are not on the same team. We are not on the same team. Because if you felt that way, you can have that conversation with me in private, but what you will not do is have that conversation in public, on camera, in front of all of the world, in front of my friends, and tell them how you support my nemesis. Are you crazy? Are you dumb? Have you bumped your head? Did your mother fall did your mom fall on her stomach with you in her room? Something is wrong with you in this moment. And so for me, I would have blacked out. I would have blacked out in that moment. Kenya did not. She tried to hold her composure, but it was just so tacky. And just his arrogance. Everything about this man turns me off. He's judging Kenya, talking about she's too flashy. I'm like, dude, you're sitting up here with a diamond in your nose and, a mohawk haircut and a diamond in your ear. But you're talking about being flashy. Am I wrong? Because for me, that definitely seems flashy for a man. I'm not judging your aesthetic, but I'm just saying that comes across very flashy. But he's trying to judge Kenya and trying to basically embarrass her out of being who she is. I did appreciate in that moment that Kenya was not having any of it. Kenya was like, look, I'm a self-made person. I make my own money. My house is paid for. If I want a Bentley, I'll have a Bentley. And I was like, okay, the real Kenya has returned. So, I don't know. I just think that Kenya and Mark are doomed. They are doomed. I hope Kenya wakes up and understands that it is time to go left and let him go right. Maybe that'll make her a kinder, gentler Kenya. But anyway, enough about what I think. I want to know what you guys think. I went a little bit longer than I anticipated, so forgive me. Yeah. As always, in closing, people, remember to live better, love harder, and think smarter. Also, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and please share if you so care. It is me, the Cerebral Diva, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.